We're going to head over to ESPN Fantasy and look at the top 15 running backs who are being dropped in fantasy football as of this morning. We're going to look at the trends. We're going to look whether or not these players should be dropped. We're going to talk ball on these running backs and everything else. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse. Whatever you need to do. Stop missing out on these deep dives that we're doing on the waiver wire prospects. We're also helping you set those lineups. We're helping you win those trades. We're going deep on these players so you know the advanced metrics so you can make your sound decisions. Click that button. Stop missing out. Let's look at some of these running backs who have been dropped off the waiver wire on ESPN. And the number one guy, numero uno here on the list from this morning, Joshua Kelly. And that makes a lot of sense. Austin Eckler is coming back. Things are going to ramp up with him. Eckler's going to steal this backfield, and Joshua Kelly had his chance and a prime opportunity. This is an opportunity where no matter what running back should be in there, should be getting you fantasy production. This dude nosedived. This dude failed. He did not hit. Any running back in the league just about should be able to just step in this opportunity and get you 9, 10, 11 fantasy points a game here, and he's getting you 6, 2, 3. Really failed on us off the waiver wire once Eckler came out with that injury, and we looked at him in week 2, and we're like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Chargers offense, high volume, explosive. Look at him on the chart there at the top, 3.26. It ain't happening. It ain't working out. The market's saying dump him, get rid of him. Go with Eckler. Go with somebody else. Even if he hits, you still don't want him because it's just an accident. Because he was in a situation where he's supposed to hit. He's also rostered in just 32.6% of leagues. He's been dumped for a while. It's just the rest of the market's just figuring it out or just having that spot to dump to get somebody else. The waiver wire hasn't been that hot the last few weeks, so he could have been hoarded during that time since he is on the Chargers. But now it's time to let go. The waiver wire's starting to look a little bit better. Might look better next week even. So, Joshua Kelly, you're done. Now we're looking at Kareem Hunt. A lot of people speculated on him because he got signed with the Browns after the Nick Chubb injury. He's rostered in 28.6% of leagues that we see down here. He's the second most dropped running back right now, and I think people are waiting to see what would happen in this offense. But the waiver wire got a little bit hot this week, so they're going to have to move on from some of these players, but he hasn't been productive yet. Only 2 weeks with the team. Maybe we get something. But looking at last year, it wasn't looking good anyways, and we're getting something out of Jerome Ford. Pierre Strong might have a come-up the back half of the season. He's highly athletic. He's a prospect you need to pay attention to. 4.3 speed, 4th-round draft capital. The Browns traded for him. Kareem Hunt, a Band-Aid job to get him through. Jerome Ford's the back there. We all know that now. He's safe to dump, and if something happens, just go back and get him off the waiver wire. Dalvin Cook is dust. The market's saying it because people are starting to dump him now. They're figuring it out. Breece Hall is getting more opportunities. He's getting more carries. He's still rostered in 63% of leagues. That's what it's saying on ESPN right now. That's still a little too high considering he's not getting many touches. He's getting 6 attempts, 5 attempts, 8 attempts, 4 and 13. That's not enough to get the job done. He's not scoring much production here, and the Jets' offense isn't fast enough or explosive enough to really give you 2 productive fantasy running backs. Dalvin Cook's good to go. He's good to let go to the waiver wire because the production's just not going to be there. This is the Breece Hall show. Now we're looking at Kenneth Gainwell. He is a stash running back with some upside here who could be getting touches down the line if something happened to DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift's a good running back. He's very efficient per touch. He can get you yards like that on any given opportunity. He's very explosive. Think about him. He has an extensive injury history. Gainwell's good to have on the back end of your roster. However, over time, that could become a roster clogger because you also got other running backs like him who are jumping into opportunities, getting touches, and you may want to test that. So he's also a hot potato, so I understand why he's being dumped right now. He's only rostered in 32% of leagues right now. Not too bad. I don't expect him to be overly rostered because he has not been hitting. And also, there's a lot of other RB2s out there in the league who are getting opportunities every single week. We get about 2 or 3 every week to look at. And if you hoard on to him too hard, you're going to miss out on those guys. And right now, he's just clogging up rosters, and that makes sense. But he does have some opportunity here if something happens to DeAndre Swift, because he is a key component to this offense. They said that in week 1, but DeAndre Swift took the ball, ran home with it. This is part of his offense. He's a very good running back, and he showed off what he can do, and he's still rolling. So the thing is, though, DeAndre Swift does have an extensive injury history, so much so the Detroit Lions drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round. Swift, though, explosive, keeping Gainwell at bay, but if you want to go after something off waivers, you need somebody to dump, Gainwell can do that for you. Jamal Williams is getting released off the waiver wire a lot this week. He's number 5 in the rankings on the running back list here. And the thing about him, he can be stashed on IR. He could just be sitting there. IR management is something fantasy gamers need to work out on, because I noticed that when I pump out these you need videos on some of these players who are on IR, who are stashes, who could get some opportunity later on down the line because they're like, hey, this guy's on IR. What are we doing here? Stash a player on IR, see what happens. Not everybody has an IR spot, though. So maybe that's a reason why he's getting dumped. Also, we see Alvin Kamara getting those touches. Alvin Kamara is getting a huge workload. The devil's advocate to that is, how long can he handle that workload? Can he go through the whole season handling that? And then what happens? We're also seeing Kendre Miller getting some opportunity in the offense. Jamal Williams, when will he be back? When will he be seeing carries? When he is back, is he going to get the goal line looks? Or is it going to be very volatile? He needs to be stashed on IR unless you got a better IR stash and you can't hold him. Again, he's a guy, if you release to the waiver wire, there's going to be a lot of people trying to get him once he's reinstated. But you don't want to have him as a roster clogger either, because I'd rather be taking shots on some of these upside flyers, see if they can hit for you. Now we're looking at Matt Breida, and you know what? For a jabroni running back, he holds it down a little bit. We had 2 double-digit PPR performances, but Saquon's going to be back soon. He's been practicing at a limited capacity. Eric Gray got a lot of touches last week. Eric Gray was the prospect we were watching throughout this time when Barkley was out, considering he's a late-round rookie with some wiggle, but Eric Gray held it down. He had some production for us in fantasy. Not the greatest, but his time's about up. Releasing him off waivers for a hot prospect, probably a good idea. It's something I would do, and I could see the market doing that. Only rostered in 22% of leagues right now. Not in high demand. Also, you don't trust the Giants. Only running back you're really going to trust is Saquon Barkley, but you're not going to trust it all the way, but you're going to do it because he's Saquon Barkley. Now we're looking at Jarrett McKinnon, RB7 on the list, and he's just not getting enough workload. He's not getting enough opportunity. They're spreading the ball around in the passing game. Isaiah Pacheco has been dominating. He's safe to release off the waiver wire. We'll monitor his status, though, because he always ramps up, or at least these last 2 years, in the back half of the season or in the playoffs. And usually you can tell because his routes ran starts to increase at the end of the season. We noticed that last year, and we picked him up, and then he hit those last few games. So maybe we catch that. I'm not going to bet on it, though. Feel free to release him off waivers. He's rostered in 43% of leagues. I don't see why you need to hold on to him any longer, especially if there's a player on waivers that you're looking to get to help your roster. Now looking at Elijah Mitchell here. He's been dealing with injuries. Christian McCaffrey's been holding it down. He is a good handcuff flyer, but still we're waiting for his opportunity to happen. Things are going slow. The other running backs are getting opportunities as well, if you haven't noticed that. So it could be just a big committee if something happens to Christian McCaffrey. So stashing him right now could be a huge gamble. He's rostered in just 27.7% of leagues. I like the upside due to his speed. I like that during his rookie season. But that might be it. That might be his 5 seconds of fame. And now it could be a committee, considering he's been out off and on with injuries for quite a bit now. Not just this year, but last year. And this could impact him if he does get his opportunity, because they may just run it with the committee given the circumstances there. So again, just like the other running backs we talked about, you may want to look at waivers if you got them stashed. Now we're looking at Rashad Penny, rostered in 25% of leagues. I don't think I really need to say it. He should be gone. He should have been on top of this list this whole season, honestly. He really shouldn't be at 9. He really shouldn't even be on the list. He should be cut even deeper. He should be rostered in like 10% of leagues. There's some upside due to the size of just athleticism, But how much of that zapped because of the injuries? The injuries really zapped his career. He's done. He could pop off at the end of the season, but just pick him up off waivers if that opportunity arises. Now we're looking at Javonte Williams. How did we get here? How did we get here? Why is he at RB10 on this list? I don't even know what to say. He's not a droppable candidate right now. The production's not really there, but the opportunity's very tremendous here. We're looking at 13 rush attempts, 6 targets, 12 rush attempts, 3 targets, 11 rush attempts, 3 targets, and then he got injured. I get it. You might be in some tight leagues here where you got to drop him. I don't know what's going on this week because he's supposed to be coming back very soon, but he's at the top of the drop list. He's RB10 right now. I don't know what's happening. He's a guy that you should not be dropping unless you're in a weird league where you can only roster like a couple running backs or something, maybe an 8-man league with some weird lineup requirements. But still, Javonte Williams should be a lock on a roster. He should not be floating on waivers. If he is, pick him up now because waivers ran through. These guys can be picked up free. He should not be sitting on waivers. Now we're looking at A.J. Dillon. Interesting guy. There's a lot of debates on whether or not he should be dropped. He's rostered in 65% of leagues. I could see things turn up in the back half of the season here as the schedule opens up a little bit. Could allow him to be productive. Could allow him to see more opportunities, more favorable opportunities at that. But still, right now, he's a roster clogger. He's not really helping you win many games. He's not helping you much out at all. And looking at the rushing attempts, 13, 15, 11, 5, 20. So we are getting some workload here. So when you look at him in value, though, compared to some of the running backs on waivers, or the running backs who should be on waivers, let's just say that, he's getting more workload than them. He's getting more opportunity than them. And those running backs, when they do get that opportunity, we're hoping he gets those touches. Maybe things turn over in the back half of the season. But if something falls to the waiver wire, someone cuts bait on a player that they shouldn't cut bait on, and you don't have another running back to cut or whatnot, he's your last one, then maybe so. That's why his roster's still in 65% of leagues. Also don't see him as a huge league winner unless his schedule breaks and things start to pop off. We started to see a little bit last week against the Raiders. Again, we're early in the season, but right now it's not looking too hot. Now, Nick Chubb out RB12 in the list. What's going on here? Why are we here? He should have already been cut. He should have already been gone. Why is he still being rostered? He probably got stashed on IR on a lot of teams. People forgot about him. But we're here. We're here, and people are still cutting him. People are still cutting him. We're in week 6. That's what the data says on ESPN. I thought it was funny. I'm going to add on another running back on the back of the list because this is so janky. Now we're looking at Ezekiel Elliott. He's a player you're playing hot potato with. Off and on with the waiver wire, playing the matchups, dropping him, picking him up, dropping him for the next running back, dropping that running back once they're done, picking him back up. That's what he is, rostered in 40% of leagues, and that's what it's going to be because he's sharing the backfield on a low-volume team that if the game script's right, he could get you some opportunities. He's going to score some touchdowns here. Has not scored a touchdown yet, at least in the rushing department here, so that's something to look at. He is going to score a touchdown this season. As long as he's healthy, plays the rest of the season, there's going to be a touchdown scored his way, so that's something to look at. Again, though, going to be on waivers in a lot of leagues. You're playing hot potato with them, depending on what's going on in the market of your waiver wire at the running back position. Now we're looking at Cam Akers. A lot of people are releasing him. He's RB14 on the list. A lot of people picked him up off the trade, or a lot of people had him stashed, and now they're dropping him to get the next best guy or the next flashy guy of the week. But the thing about him, he's still rostered in 66% of leagues. We're seeing a slight decrease in Alexander Madison snaps right now. It's dropping a little bit per snap share. That could be an indicator for something down the line, maybe later in the season. He's a good stash for the back half of the season. I'm cool with stashing him, especially if I got room for it. Cam Akers has a lot of upside. There's a lot of upside in this offense. Very explosive, fast pace. Even though they're not one of the best teams in football, they do move the ball through the air. They operate at a very fast pace, and that could be very beneficial for a guy like Cam Akers. So a guy, if you have the room for it, stash him, but don't break yourself over it either. And if you need to pick somebody else up, could be a guy to drop. Now we're looking at Tyler Algier, and he is buoyed to Bijan Robinson right now, rostered in about 60% of leagues right now per ESPN. And again, he is a hot potato running back where you're picking up dropping him, picking him up, dropping him, because he is getting you production from time to time. But if something happens to Bijan Robinson, you're going to wish you had Tyler Algier. He rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Can be productive when given the full opportunity. Hasn't shown that yet. He showed that in week 1 where he scored some touchdowns. But again, you're waiting for him to fall across that goal line. That's going to be a hard gamble to make every week. He's a player that you're just playing hot potato with. You're going to hold him for a few weeks, drop him for the next guy. Once that next guy runs dry, you pick him back up. That's just how it's going to work for Tyler Algier. Our last guy is Najee Harris. Running back 16, drop candidate this week off the list. And think about him, he hasn't been productive. Sharing the field with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's getting a lot of touches as well. Jaylen Warren's getting a lot more money opportunities in the passing game. Harris's touches and opportunities have decreased significantly compared to last year and the year prior, creating him less opportunities to score fantasy points in this offense. And unless he starts getting more touches, start getting him better in game scripts, it's going to look like this for the rest of the season. If you want to drop him for the better flavor of the week, go ahead. But the thing about Najee Harris, if you think about it this way, if something happens to Jaylen Warren, you pretty much got like this handcuffed running back who's going to step into the situation where he's going to start getting a larger workload, where he's going to start scoring more fantasy points. Pretty much you would add what he did, plus a little bit of Jaylen Warren, put it together, you're going to get some production, and you may like that better than what's on the waiver wire. There are some running backs who pop up on the waiver wire who are the flavor of the week, who could get you some results on the short term. But again, when you look at Harris's profile, you look at the touches, you look at the opportunity if something happened to Warren, you could be looking at just a handcuff 1B back that if something breaks could be something for you. But again, if your waiver wire starts getting some players on it, people start cutting bait as we get deeper in the season, you may have to make that business decision. You may want to hold tight right now, but be careful. Be ready to make that move. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who did you drop this week to make your moves? I want to hear about it. That's going to help everybody else know who they should make their moves with as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next